Evening, friends. Jackson Crow here, coming to you once again from whaintradio. Welcome to the Holler. Broadcasting live from somewhere I still haven't quite managed to find on a map. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. Most nights, you'll probably hear stories about old ranger logs or letters, tapes that don't have any business existing. But lately, the telephone started ringing. And I don't mean the phone on my desk. That one hasn't been connected to anything since sometime around 1976, I guess. I mean your phone calls. Stories from folks out there who've seen something they can't rightly explain. Heard something outside the window. Found a road that wasn't there the day before, sort of thing. Things that followed them home. So tonight, we're opening up a new part of the broadcast. And I call it Calls from the Holler. And our first caller is a fella named Tyler from Decatur, Georgia. Now, Tyler called in with a story that sounded ordinary enough at first. That's usually how the bad ones start. A familiar place, a normal night. And then one little thing happens that doesn't quite fit. And after that, well, I'll let Tyler tell you himself. Before we play his call, though, I just want to tell you one thing. If you're listening tonight and you've got a story of your own, something strange or frightening, unexplained, or just plain wrong, I want to hear it. You can call the Midnight Holler storyline at 1-214-699-7784. That's 1-214-699-7784. Leave your story after the tone. Tell me your name, where you're calling from, and exactly what happened. And if your story finds its way through the signal, you just might hear your own voice coming out of this radio one night. One more thing. If you're calling because you heard us before you knew this number existed, don't hang up. I especially want to hear from you. Alright, let's get to the line. This is Tyler from Decatur, and this is his call from the Holler. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, who's this?
Hello? Is this the Midnight Holler?
This is the Midnight Holler, friend. How can I help you?
Hey, well, just want to say I'm a huge fan. This is Tyler from Decatur, Georgia calling in. And just wanted to see, I heard you were taking submissions for some fan submitted stories. And while I'm no storyteller, I do have an experience or two. And so just wanted to call in. Are we live right now?
We are live on the air, my friend. I think you're the first one to be live on the air. But,
all right.
All right, Tyler from Decatur, Georgia. Thank you for coming to the show.
Yeah, well, to give you some background for the story, that is, I grew up in southeast Georgia, an hour south of Savannah, an hour north of Jacksonville. My dad is a seventh generation Georgian. The family consisted mostly of dirt farmers and moonshiners who would operate through the Okefenokee Swamp. My mom's side of the family couldn't be more different. She immigrated to Georgia from Korea when she was just 3 years old. Her family slowly trickled over the seas through the 70s and 80s to Georgia as well.
Wow.
Before I was born, the Korean side of my family eventually moved to the Korean suburbs of Atlanta, if you will, to Duluth and Suwanee and Chamblee. So, Gwinnett County, if you're familiar with it.
I am.
So anytime we would see them would usually be at Thanksgiving. Outside of my mom and my grandparents, those were the only Koreans I would see growing up. So we would make the 4.5 hour trip to the big city each November. And once we'd get there, we'd be welcomed by an absolute myriad of family members. I had a flurry of great aunts who, to this day, I could only remember half their names. Most of them were not very nice. with the exception of my Aunt Oki, who would do anything in the world for you. The rest of the aunts were extremely judgmental, and they would pick on kids for being chubby or inadequate in other ways. Most of my uncles who were Korean only spoke Korean, so very limited interactions with them, other than the occasional hello, how are you doing sort of thing.
Okay. And was your dad Korean too?
Dad was white, 7th generation Georgian.
Ah, that's where the moonshining comes in.
Yes. So they were just white country folk down there.
Okay. All right.
To kind of keep going through the roster, is my great grandma Park. She was the family's eldest matriarch. Tell you what, she looked a lot like what's the Disney film Coco?
Uh-huh.
She looked a lot like Coco.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, the Mexican
Yeah.
Day of the Dead?
Oh yeah, the grandma.
The grandma, yeah. So she knew little English. She knew to tell telemarketers no thank you and hang up. She knew the names of fruits like bananas and oranges. Still, though, she was an effective communicator. Without knowing the only language I could speak, I could understand what she was saying or what she was getting at. Talking to her always felt like you were in the presence of a legend, if you will, or like a mythical ancestor. And then there was my great grandpa Park, her husband. And you see, when my family would tell stories of great grandpa Park, they would talk about how animated he was, how even through a language barrier, he could communicate through facial expressions or through his mannerisms. There was a story that they love to tell. In the 70s or 80s, he would always be glued to a television set. And he was obsessed with professional wrestling.
Really?
And he would get in these arguments with kids and adults alike because they would tell him it was fake.
It's something you don't tell somebody from the South, whether they're Korean or not.
Right. So it was this old Korean guy who was just getting super angry with them. Just I guess through his mannerisms, exclaiming that it was all real. That story stuck with me, though, because when I would see him, he would be absolutely silent in his words, in his actions. He was withdrawn and what felt like chained to his bed and bedroom at all times. He never looked sick. He was delicate but not fragile. His dark brown eyes were extremely stark, and he would stare just deeply at me.
Wow.
I was never scared. Perhaps just a little put off by the awkwardness of the language barrier, but I knew he meant no harm.
Yeah.
He was as kind as my great grandma, and to this day, I can't recall him ever saying anything. As a kid, though, I knew to be careful because if I walked past his door, I would have to go into the room and sit with him. And despite it probably only being a few minutes or a few seconds at a time, it felt like hours. And I would sit there and wait for someone to call for me so I could leave.
How old were you?
I was probably around, 6 years old, 7 years old.
Okay, so that makes sense. That tracks.
Over the years, though, we went to Atlanta less and less. We missed a lot of Thanksgivings. We missed a lot of funerals. My had uncles, my great grandfather, all of them passed away before my great grandma. I actually remember going to her funeral and staying at her house and sensing the same off-putting feelings that radiated around the same doorway in the room that he would sit in. Um, our aunt and uncle would eventually move into the old house, and I'd sometimes stay the night there when I was in college. And when I was there, and this was almost every single time, I would see doors open and close in the house.
Wow.
And, I don't know if it's out of avoidance or just by downplaying it, but, I would think to myself, oh, it was just the air conditioning. I see it every time, doors open, doors close, whatever. Fast forward, my aunt and uncle sell the house, and I never see the home again. Years later, I'm riding in the car with my fiance and my mom, and we're reminiscing about all these old trips to Atlanta, our family members and Thanksgivings. And I began telling stories of both great grandma and great grandpa Park. And I can tell my mom gets this look on her face that something is bothering her, something's not quite right. And I actually stop and think that maybe it's getting her emotional, that she's missing these people, that it's too much to kind of hear and talk about on this drive. And she goes, no, that's, it's fine. Let's keep talking about it. She's like, but I think you're misremembering something here. I'm like, Mom, I have really great memory. What do you mean I'm misremembering? And she goes, Tyler, you never met your great grandpa Park.
Wow.
He passed away before you were born. He's like, you must be thinking of some uncle or something. And so I go, no, I mean, he described the way he looked, and my mom was just getting a little bit weirded out. And I told her, I would go and I would have to sit next to him on the bed, and he wouldn't say anything. And this happened almost every year. And when we got back home, she, checked the family records, and sure enough, he had passed away before I was ever born. And she pulled some pictures out, and I was like, that is him. I was able to identify him in every single picture as the person that I would sit next to and spend these kind of little moments with around Thanksgiving each year.
Wow. Same eyes and everything?
Same eyes. And, I never really thought of anything other than of seeing doors open and close there. I never connected that it really had to do with my grandpa. But it was a surreal feeling to kind of learn that. And as I'm telling you the story, it was really my first realization that this person died before I was ever born. And it was a creepy feeling all around.
But you swear that you have these memories of him. And I got a few things. First of all, I love the fact that your grandfather, you don't need to know English to know what a pile driver is. That's something that communicates through all languages. And so I love that he was into watching wrestling. I think everybody was in the South at some point. And your grandmother sounds like an absolute legend. So does your grandfather. What do you think the connection to the house has to do with it? Do you think it's from the house itself, or do you think that maybe you're somehow picking up some ancestral memories or memories with your grandfather that either haven't passed yet or maybe passed through a different life? What do you think that's all about?
I'm not sure. I talked with the uncle who sold the house, and they had actually bought that house after he had passed away. So, he never lived there. I don't know if he had ever even been there.
Wow.
So yeah, the house had absolutely no connection with him directly, as far as I know.
And do you ever have any more memories now, or any kind of, I don't know, do you see him anymore these days, or did that only happen when you were young?
No, absolutely not. I had these memories of sitting with him, and I imagine that we had just missed his funeral at some point, and I never really thought anything else of it until the car ride with my mom and my fiance.
Wow. Well, that's an incredibly impactful story. I wish you could have met him. He sounds like a legend, but I think it's pretty cool that you still have memories of spending time with him, whether or not they happen in this lifetime or the next.
I can tell you it was one of the eeriest feelings to kind of have that realization and to see my own mom's face kind of kind of respond the way she did, because to me it meant, okay, not only do I feel verified in this, is my mom's incredibly religious, and I think also maybe sensitive to those sorts of things.
Yeah, it usually does run in the family. Well, Tyler from Georgia, we really appreciate you, man. That was an amazing story. You kept the station alive for probably another day or so. And so from everybody at Wayne, which is essentially just me, I just want to say thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. Have a good one. Hey, friends. Thank you again for tuning in to the Midnight Holler. Your stories, your participation, you just listening to this radio station, you help keep the lights on at night. Once again, if you got a story of your own, feel free to call anytime. 1-214-699-7784. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a great night. And remember, the woods are always watching.
I rolled into that radio shack on a rainy summer night. A little red tower on a lonely hill shining like a porch light. I fixed the wires, I signed my name, thought I'd head on home by dawn. But every mile I drove away brought that old station back along. That road always leads me home, no matter where I roam. North or south, east or west, it pulls me like a stone. I chased the moon till daylight came, still wound up right back alone. Lord, I swear that old red light knows where I belong. That road always leads me home. I filled my truck with one last tank, said this'll break the spell. I drove until the motor coughed, ran dry beside the well. I climbed the hill to thumb a ride, but every face was gone. When I looked behind me there, that same old tower shone. That road always leads me home, no matter where I roam. Round and round this county line like an old worn out song. I wore my tires nearly smooth till every hope was gone. Lord, I swear that old red light 2 feet, crossed every creek and pine. Every ridge I'd climb would end with that beacon in my eyes. I marked the trees with pocket knife cuts, thought I'd fool the land somehow. But every trail bent back around to where I'm standing now. Well, I got mad at heaven, I cussed that blinking light, threw rocks at that old radio mast, half the live long night. The echoes laughed, the wind just sighed like somebody'd already knew. There ain't much fight left in a man when the world's done fighting you. So I swept the floor and brewed some coffee, started fixing busted dials. Folks began to call each night and stayed a little while. Yes, a lonely man can learn to make a home somehow. If this station ain't gonna let me leave, it can have me now. That road always leads me home, no matter where I roam. Funny how the place I cursed feels less like I'm alone. The trucks may rust, the years roll by, the stars may all move on, but I'll be here beneath that light, singing every song. That road always leads me home. If you hear me on your radio and the signal's clear and strong, wave to that old red tower friend. I'll be here all night